It's like there's one new book that like is gonna be huge. And
what's the name of this comic? What's the name of it?
That it eats what feeds it.
I've been seeing that everywhere. You wrote that?
I wrote that. Yeah. So
Bro,
that
I swear I've been seeing that comic everywhere.
yeah, it's now
It eats what feeds it.
Like, remember we were saying, is like, do they make it? Are they guaranteed to make you a hit? Any publisher that you get on, you have the potential to be a hit. But like, for example, I'm a good example of like, I was a hit with Scout Comics. I was the #1 bestseller for the entire year of 2020, and then the trade for 2021
with Liquid Kill, right?
Not with Liquid Kill. Liquid Kill is also a hit, but I'll give you an example of where the difference lies.
Okay.
So I was the hit of hits with Scout, but that only put me at about, you know, my total sales of all that being the hit of hits was about 25,000, like sales of individual floppies, including not just issue 1, issues 2 and 3, and then not including the trades. But
that's impressive, though.
That's #1. So that is just to compare. It's like the base, like almost anybody that gets on Image, they're going to sell 10,000 copies of issue 1, bare minimum. The #1 hit at Scout, sold about 10,000 of issue 1.
How did you do that, though? How did you do that? Did you have a promotional plan, or was the book just so good that it just blew up? What happened? People want to know this stuff, you know?
Yeah, and I'll get into it because I was also always wanting to know the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's to break it down, it's like I don't really know why, but I can tell you the things that happened and what actually moved the needle. Okay, so remember we're talking about there's that preview stage, or that pre-order stage before the book comes out or anything. You have to the comic shops and the have to pre-order the book. So there's about a 3-month window where something goes into the preview catalog, where readers actually get or comic shops get a chance to buy it before it comes out. During that window, I sent the first issue to a bunch of different review sites. I sent it to a bunch of different comic shops. I physically called comic shops. I have a writing partner who, him and I together, for like those whole 3 months, we hustled it in the ways that we knew how, which was we sent it to CBR, we sent it to Monkeys Fighting Robots, we sent it to Bleeding Cool. Our publisher Scout did their own like email list of saying this is a thing that's coming out. Any way we can get it into any community. And then we also tried to get on YouTube channels and go on channels like yours and mine now, although I didn't have the YouTube channel at the time, but it's like just to get on people that talk about comics. Now we did a little bit of that. And but what really broke the needle was not because we did a ton of it. It's that the review sites that we had loved it because we only sent them issue 1. And one person in particular, his name's Comic Tom 101. He is you might call him a collector and now an influencer. And at the time, he had probably, I want to say, like 10 to 15,000 followers or something like that on YouTube. He now has a lot more. He's a bigger deal now. But at the time, he was already a big deal in indie comics in the sense that people that read comics went to him to learn what was good. And they not just to read them, but also learn what's going to possibly sell. Now, this breaks into that comics and how they differ from regular books in the bookstores is that a huge part of our market is the collectability factor of them. So we have a ton of readers that are also collectors. And so that means that they will buy more than one. They will buy a variant cover. They will buy all 3 issues if they think it's going to be a big deal. They will buy more than one because they'll want to keep one to read, and then they'll want to keep one to put into the graded slates and they'll want to sell it at a later price. They might buy like 10 just because they think they'll be able to sell it if it becomes a movie or something like that. So that Comic Tom picked up, read my review that I sent him, never told me. I don't think he responded and said, this is good. He has a guy on his show that is known as Fire Guy Ryan, who also basically reviews comics and is an influencer in the space. He read it, loved it, went on Comic Tom's show and was like, there's one new book that like is going to be huge. And
what's the name of this comic? What's the name of it?
That it eats what feeds it.
I've been seeing that everywhere. You wrote that?
I wrote that. Yeah.
Bro, so I swear I've been seeing that comic everywhere.
Yeah, it's now
it eats what feeds it.
It's in the zeitgeist of comics now. It was like,
bro, you famous, bro.
in the small circle of what we are, I'm a little famous. But outside of that circle,
bro, I'm telling you, what it eats, what feeds it. I've been seeing that everywhere, like comic book shops. Like I've been seeing that, and I'm like, okay, I keep seeing this book. It's telling me I need to buy it.
Yeah, so I've argued, and I mean, most of my own YouTube channel, for people that don't know, I have a YouTube channel called Indie Comic Empire, and I talk about all the stuff I'm talking about today in like more detail of like what actually matters. And I think the main thing is like I partnered with an amazing artist named Gabriel Umizark. It's spelled weird. It's like Mizark. So, but it's pronounced Umizark. He's Brazilian. He did the cover art. He did the interior art. He's done books with big publishers like Boom Studios and things like that. He had a series called The Last Broadcast, and I want to say like 10 years ago that was through Boom. And he's a phenomenal artist. Okay. And his artwork popped, and our first issue was like a good first issue, like to where people understandably would be like, this is cool. Like this. And so those two things are like basically issue 1 and a cover are like a trailer, like to a movie. And so if everybody's like that, this is gonna be cool, and look at this cover, and then someone like Comic Tom and Fire Guy are like, but it's gonna be crazy. That caused like basically once the book actually came out, the next thing that happened was CB Cebulski, who's the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, tweeted and said there's 3 books that are good this summer or something like that, and one of them was mine. One of them was It Eats What Feeds It.
So he gave you that push.
He gave me the shout out. It's the same sense that like it's not really that comparable, but like Kanye West back in the day tweeted a short film by Fede Alvarez and just said, this is dope. And that Fede Alvarez did Don't Breathe. He did Evil Dead. He's now a huge name in movies, all because Kanye West basically was just like, this is dope. And it was just a short film he made.
Yeah,
and
rappers,
everyone was
what rappers call it? Rappers call it the cosign.
The cosign. Yeah. So I got a cosign from one of the main people that, like, in comics, Marvel is number 1. Marvel and DC, you can argue together, obviously, are number 1. So it was like getting the cosign from him made not just readers, but like other publishers and everyone just go, who's this guy? Because I was a complete unknown. The other 2 books he mentioned are from some of the most well-known writers in the space today. You know, so it was like, who's these unknown people that CB Cebulski is tweeting about? And people just want to know, who is this guy, from publishers to the comic shops and other readers and other creators. And that caused a spike in momentum to where then I got a huge wave of people ordering issues 2 and 3 and like the whole series. So I went from basically just like your normal 1,500 order. The pre-orders was less than that. You know, I probably got like 500 pre-orders or something like that. But then whenever the book came out, it was like I got that cosign, and now people reordered it. So you can go back and order number 1 again. And that's when it was like, now I got I had more pre-orders after that than I did original like orders before that, during the preview period, because the word of mouth through Comic Tom, CB Sapolsky. Another thing that happened at the same time was my book went live on the Hoopla app, which is basically the library that allows you to read books online.
Okay.
And when that happened, I had word of mouth through the Hoopla app and Goodreads. So basically, that issue 1 had word of mouth. And I don't know how to tell people how to do that. I don't really know how I did it. You know, like
what seemed like it seemed like what you did was you didn't put all your eggs in one basket. And what I used to think was put all your eggs in one basket, because I used to wonder why people were like, when they sell their comic books, they'll sell it on eBay, they'll sell it on Gumroad, they'll sell it here, they'll sell it there. But from hearing from your story, that seemed like that's the way, just to put out everything on different platforms and different avenues. What you thinking?
Well, in that sense, once you sign with a publisher, you have no say on where it goes.
Oh, okay.
So like I was not making the decision of put it here, put it there. All of these sales were all done through the same channel. They were ordered through comic shops. But where they saw and learned about the book was all online through these influencers. Like the key that matters is you have to reach media. You have to reach like the chatter of communities of people that care about these things. So if people go to YouTube channels to see what's the new cool thing that's coming out, you need as a creator to somehow be one of the things that people are talking about. And the reason I became talked about is because other influencers talked about me and said I was going to be the new cool thing. And the reason they knew about it before other people is because I sent review copies to the other things that they read. So they read the bleeding cool things. And I had a great cover, a good log line, an interesting, unusual title. And then the people that actually read it were like, this is good.
And so your book was already done when you started writing to these platforms?
Oh, yeah. That's another thing to back up on is like, when you sign with a publisher, they typically will not even actually start putting a book to print until there's a whole bunch of issues down the line.
You're exactly right, because I was talking to a publisher about my book, and I just got issue 1 done, and he says this is it. He said it's a great book, but he says this it, and I said yeah. I said I'm working on issue 2 and 3 currently, and he said, well, when you get done with 2 and 3, that's when you get at me. You know,
everything is it's like everything's done in threes because there's a 3-month window to where before they they advertise something before it goes on the shelves. There's a 3x multiple of what they buy something at and what they sell things at. There's so like whenever it comes to this stuff, they won't even consider your series unless you have 3 in the bag, meaning you need to have at least 3 issues done before they'll even consider thinking about publishing it. Now, that's hard for us as creators to not even know if it's possible to get now we'll cut to, I know we're over an hour. I don't know how much longer you want to go.
Keep going, brother. Keep going.
Like,
keep going.
So this is where it like comes into my world, and where if we backtrack again to where I was like with music and movies and stuff, is like who's actually making money and how does this actually work? And so what you learn is sticking with comic books, but it's also the same with everything, is what makes what we call break even for print. So there's 2 ways of breaking even. There's breaking even for the publisher, which means they break even on printing costs and marketing costs. Now, most of the time their marketing is 0 because what do? They put it in an email list. They're not paying for ads, most of the time. Now, to hype up my publisher, Massive, that's now known as Massive Publishing, and they have Massive Indies, and they're growing real big. And
not to cut you off, is Massive Massive, is that the same company that put out those books? It's like the character like got his powers from this orb, and it's like they got different suits. Dang, I can't believe I forgot the name of that comic. You know what I'm talking about? It kind of reminds you of Power Rangers in a way.
That one's not sounding familiar.
Okay, it might not be the company.
Oh, was it Ram God or the Astrobots or something? They've released some.
I heard of Massive before. I heard of Massive. Yeah, I heard of Massive before.
They're fairly new too. Like I can go down that line with them, but before I get to,
but I want to break your concentration. Yeah, keep going, brother.
No, you're good. Yeah, but the cool thing about Massive is they are trying to break the mold a little bit, and they're a big publisher, and they started a big publisher from the get-go because they were a publishing arm of Whatnot Incorporated, which is like the biggest auctioning app that's the equivalent to the eBay of all collectibles. They're a huge app, multi-billion-dollar network and enterprise, and they started a publishing line that so all the partnerships Whatnot had, Whatnot Publishing had, and they rebranded and reformed. It's now a slightly different executive team, but but point being is they had a lot of these partnerships, so they were able to get things into a lot of stores, and they spent money on marketing. They paid to get books like mine on the cover of magazines. They got their books to be displayed in Times Square in New York City. They do a lot of things to keep comics, not just themselves, but comics in general, as relevant in the world scene.
That's impressive.
So that people still see them as a regular thing. There's a lot of people that forget that comics and graphic novels, you watch The Punisher on Netflix today, and people don't even they forget that was based upon the comics. I mean, the regular everyday people don't even think about it that way. And Massive goes to lengths to keep that in the zeitgeist of people thinking about hey, we're a publishing company that publishes comics, and that's what we do, and we're putting it in places where people see things every day. So it's still a part. You see an ad for Old Spice deodorant, and then you see one for a comic book. It brings the relevancy of comic books back to, oh, this is just as common as people use deodorant if people are buying comic books. It's if you're paying to keep it in our eyesight just as a thing, it makes it more important, not just for that book that they're promoting, but for all of us. So in that sense, Massive is helping out the whole industry. But to cut away from Massive is so publishers generally their break even is they have to make their money back on however much they spend on printing. And they spend less to print books the more they print, because printers basically, it's cheaper when they do things in just a million times in a row, as opposed to if they have to stop and change things. So if you're saying, I'm just do this 100,000 times, well, they say each time they do that is less and less money. So if you're printing 40,000 copies of one book, the cost to print each one of those individual books can go down to 20 cents, as opposed to if you and I are trying to print 200 copies of something, it might cost us $2. 20 cents versus $2 is quite a big difference, but that's where they make all the money. And this is where things are what we call exponentially different. So when it comes to breaking even for the publisher, they don't have to make that much in order to break even on printing. And if they're printing at least a certain amount, let's just say 2,000 copies or something like that, well, then they can pretty much guarantee that they're at least only spending about $1 per issue. So that means that they're spending $2,000. And if they sell those books for $5, after the publisher and distributor take their cut, they're at least making whatever it is, $1, $2 profit per book for those 2,000 that they print. So their break even is, let's just say, 2,000. So to them, if you sell at least 2,000 copies, you're a hit, because you broke them even. They're not losing money on you. And if you sell double that, or let's just say maybe not a hit, but you're worth their time. So they will then sell more issues with you.
That's kind of like the movie world too, right? If it break even,
yeah, it's all about breaking even, because over time they can continue selling your book and and that's all profit. So if I printed 2,000, or let's just say I printed 6,000, I sold 2,000, I broke even on my $2,000. Now everything I sell after that, it doesn't matter if it's over the course of 10 years, I'm making profit on every one of those make. That's income coming in, going in the future, unlimited until it sells out. So they basically are like, you're worth doing business with as long as you can sell their break even number. Now, but from a creator standpoint, so they might say, hey, man, you sold 4,000 copies, dude. You're a hit. Like with me, where they're like, you guys are a hit. Like, this is a big deal. You know, we're all making money on this. But now to back up, the creator is spending a lot more than just 2,000 to print it. We are either A, spending years to make them ourselves because we're the artist, or B, we're the writer that's paying an artist and we're paying them a page rate. And if we're, you know, if we're selling, 8 issues and we're spending $100 per page, you guys can do the math. Like, it adds up to a lot pretty quick. And just breaking even on one issue is one thing, but can you break even on all the issues? Like, the collector's market might buy issue 1 just in case it becomes a thing, but the readers is only half of that. And then the readers fall off. Your readers might like issue 1 and then not like issue 2 and even not like issue 3 even more, and they just stop, and you lose readers along the way. It's actually a big deal if you get readers and then keep growing them. That's why Robert Kirkman, everybody knows his name because he built it. Like the people, everyone that read it was like, this is crazy, and it keeps growing.
It keeps growing, especially with the TV show too. The TV show makes
that's what I mean whenever I say exponential. So what happens is when you become a hit with the printer or like with the publisher, that's one thing. You're like, you sold double, like you made us money on printing. Then you become a hit if you sell enough to where the readers read your whole series and break even. So now you made money on all of them, even if it might be a little bit less than $100 per issue. You still made money. Like, it's profitable for the publisher. They printed the whole series and they might even print more. But now you have to break even as a creator. So you have to sell a huge level more to like pay off what you spent to produce the book.
Yeah.
And that's a lot more than people realize. Like, that's a lot more than just being a hit with a publisher. You have to be a hit in the whole space. You have to sell like 10,000 copies to even reach that number. Like, I had to be the #1 hit of the series of my publisher of the year to even break even on what it cost to produce the book I made. And then mine was only 3 issues. So imagine as if I created a series that was 12, and it's really hard to break even on something that long.
Yeah.
But then to where it's like, now, okay, so you've broke even on your own now or whatever. So now if I am the investor, what kind of a hit do I have to make to where it's like I double my money? To where if I put $10,000 and $20,000 into this, where I make 10 and 20,000 profit. If I'm making that much, that means the publisher is making a whole lot, because they were breaking even at 2,000. You're breaking even at 20. Now, if you're saying I made 40, that means that they made $500,000. And if they're making $500,000, they're going to invest 100,000 to see if they can make it $1 million. And that's what happens is you reach a new level whenever you actually yourself are a hit to where you're making like doubling your investment, because that means everybody else is making a whole lot, and they can take the time and they'll take their own money and they'll start investing in you, and they'll say, hey, like, not only did you make $20,000 on the series, I'm going to pay you another $20,000 to keep it going. And then I'm going to pay to get it, all the trades to have special editions. And now you're not just making 20 cents per book. They're printing a bunch, and now you're making more per issue, and they're printing more issues, and they're doing new exclusive covers that they're selling for $50 and $100, and you're making half of that because that's just with you and the publisher, or that's like just with you and an artist kind of deal. And now you reach that velocity, like I was saying, to where people are paying you just to be involved in your project, and you're no longer waiting for that royalty check. Like everything you do involved in it, because everyone around you and everyone involved is making money, including yourself. So like, because before you hit that, everyone might be making a little bit. That's what I was saying. Like you can be a decent hit with image, but you're not reaching the levels to where you're like, I'm a hit. Like I'm a phenomenon, to where like, and you only reach that. You can't fake that. It only happens if you get more and more readers, to where that, and by exponential meaning like you start with 1,000, they tell 10 of their friends, and now you have 10,000 readers. And then you get a movie deal, and it gets in front of 100,000 people, and they're talking about it. And then it's number one on Netflix. And the next thing you know, you've got deals for the next 10 years. Like that. That's, you go from 1,000 to 10 to 100 to 1,000,000. Like that's where you reach this, to where it's just like it's and a perfect example of someone that hit that fairly recently at the same time I like started to like It Eats What came out, is whenever Something Is Killing the Children came out, and they broke records that were so high that he is starting to reach like at that time 30,000.
I saw that book too. That Something Is Killing, because I'm gonna tell you what got me with your book and that book, the title.
Yeah, and I talk about that in my videos. Like I was also like, there's a lot of reasons why I made it sort of a unique, kind of phonetically weird sounding and also really long, is for SEO purposes. So whenever someone goes on Google or YouTube, now remember, everybody learns about things. It's just like getting a job. All that matters is who is like talking about you. Like whenever I say the zeitgeist, I mean literally just like what people that aren't just in your circle, but like that are just out living their lives. They're playing video games together, and they're also talking about Shelly did this and Billy did that. And then, did you see this new trailer? Yeah, I saw the new trailer for Sinners. Did you read this on Twitter? Yeah. Did you see CB Sapolsky said something about this, this book being good? Like, oh yeah, I never heard of that guy. Have you? Like, let's look him up. Now, whenever someone goes look something up, remember there's not much that like we can remember. So, and it's important that you have something that people are like, I know it was long and sounded weird and had the word eats in it. And if you actually type in "it eats," the very first thing that comes up nowadays is "it eats what feeds it." Like it does that autocorrect to fill in the rest of the blanks based upon how many people are searching something.
You're right. Okay.
Before that, like if you just wrote "it eats," or like if you look up comic books, you might not find a typical comic book name unless you put comic afterward, like The Empty Man. You might write empty or something like that, or Empty Man. The first thing that might come up is my cup was empty, man, or whatever it is. Like and so it's not always the what people are searching for, but the longer tail that you have, the more likely you are to be number one.
You're right. You're right. I'm gonna tell you why you're right. I used to do websites back in the day, years ago, and what you're describing is long tail keywords.
Yes.
And with long tail keywords, SEO wise, those long tail going to rank better than, like you just said, if just putting "it eats."
Yeah.
So that's you thinking on a level that I've never seen nobody think about when it comes to your product, your merch, your comic books. Let me ask you this last question, man, because you gave me a lot of great jewels, man. You gave me a lot of great stuff. You got your people like your Ether Van Scrivers. You got your people like your Eric Julys.
Yeah.
These guys have built such a fan base and have made so much money selling books, crowdfunding wise, or in Eric's case, I still think Eric do crowdfunding, but he call it something different. He sell on his website. Do you think these guys are fine where they're at, or do you think they can make bigger noise on a image or somebody along those lines? What are your thoughts about those guys and people like them? What do you think?
Yeah, they're another example of where I talk about there's different levels to what are you trying to do here? Okay. So so if a lot of people ask me, not necessarily me, but in this space, we are all asking each other sort of like, what's it mean to make it? Or when do you sort of become a pro? Or like when can I like sort of not feel like I'm amateur and I can basically say like I'm a comic book creator and it actually means something. And like to go back to Niobe and them, like to some like him, it's like what matters is am I on the shelves? Okay. So and I would say to a lot of us, you know, at the very lowest level, it's like you reach certain barriers that you want to cross. And like the first one is like just finish something. Just finish the script, finish the book, you know, and you'll get better along the way. But you do want to try to reach new barriers. And I would say it's like level one is just finishing something because it's so hard to even just get something out on paper, finalize a real full story. The next one should be to basically get a large reader base, whether that's the typical reader base in comic shops or that's your own reader base online or it's a reader base on Webtoon or whatever it is. And whenever I say a reader base is the next level after that, where it is whether you are in the comic shops or in Eric July or whatever, if you or like my example of Charlie Stigney earlier is like if you can be completely self-sustaining as a comic book creator, and meaning not necessarily your whole life, like I pay my bills with comics, but if you can write books and an audience buys them and they pay you enough to make the next book and you're not going into debt to make these to where it's like full-blown hobby and I'm just buying Warhammer dolls to paint and it's all an expense. At some point, am I like making money back from the hobby? I would say that that's like the base level of you are a pro. Like you do something that pays you enough to make it worth keep going. You know, like that should be like their baseline of like where's sort of the line I cross to where if you're getting into anything, whether it's comedy or something, at some point you sort of give up, you know, like if you don't reach a certain barrier. I would say like at a certain point, if you want to say like, did I make it or not? It's like, are you self-sustaining as a creator? Do you have an audience base that's big enough to keep it going and not make it like a debt and financially and emotionally like not getting anywhere? If your audience is 8 people, they may love your stuff, but that's not enough to like keep going. You know, there's a certain number that can vary amongst people, but I use the general term of like 1,000 base readers. I myself have not excuse me, gotten there purely on my own. I've gotten a lot more readers than that because I'm associated with publishers that have their own base. But myself as a creator, I don't have 1,000 people that will consume whatever art I do as a person. But there's a lot of people in comics that you look at. I just interviewed a couple of creators that are all at that level to where they may not be big names in the game, but they have an audience that sustains their life. So to cut to like, that's their base level. So in that sense, the Eric Julys and Ethan Van Skyvers are well above that base. Like they make they have an audience base that's so big, like you're saying, that they are actually at like a really high level in the sense that they're not just breaking even on anything. They're actually making so much money from this that this is their business. That they have employees. They have to watch their image in a sense. Like they treat themselves as a corporation. Now, what people I think get hung up on them is like the people that try to lump them into a category to where that's not the basis. The basis is not, do they have their own reader base, but are they legitimate in the comic industry as a whole or something like that? Like, can they compare themselves to other industry professionals that went through the traditional routes? And the example of Eric July, the beef people have with him is they feel as if he didn't have a huge audience base on YouTube, he would have very little relevancy in comics because the stories alone of Isam and the other books that he does don't have a phenomenon status on their own. He didn't build a readership based upon story. He built it based upon political ideology. And then the people that were a part of that bucket then associated because they are fans of him. My argument is, if you cut all that stuff aside, his audience base is dedicated to him as a person, which to me is more important than being dedicated to a community, a standalone. As if like you were to say, what matters more is comics and some kind of what people make. Like, there is no just like, this is the comics industry and that's what matters. It's not like, that's different from a nation. You can't say like he's doing this for Germany or America or the Philippines or something like that. It's like somebody is creating content for themselves and he has a dedicated audience to him and his team and his brand. And in that sense, he is doing a phenomenal job. Him and Ethan Van Sciver. And anybody else on all political spectrums and in all, there's plenty of other examples aside from those two guys that are making lots of money with comics that are unaffiliated with the left-right political paradigm, that are just making good stories. And that's where it's like, you can lump them as, well, they're a part of this other thing and that thing is not legitimate. But in reality, it's like that we're dedicated to artists as a person, and some of us are dedicated to stories. And then there's other people that pretend to dedicate, I say pretend, they really are maybe dedicated to what they consider as a community of people of what you might call the comics industry or comics as a whole. And that's where the divide comes from, is people, what is their true loyalty to? Is it to a person? Is it to an ideology? Is it an ideology could be the comics industry, and they might separate as, one is credible and the other isn't. The person might be credible, but the industry is not, or whatever their ideology is not, or whatever. That's how I see it. So in my mind, it's like, if you as a person don't separate yourself and consider yourself, some piece of a greater whole, just like if you just think about it, me and you, like what matters to me and you? Like, am I living the life I want, creating the artwork I want with the audience I built myself? And even if I built it, like not necessarily just me and me alone, I mean, just like I have full control over it. And that doesn't mean necessarily that I am only self-published. That can be creators that work with publishers. And you have such a phenomenon status that working with those publishers, they make a living creating comic books.
And that go back full circle of what you said in the beginning is you said you got to know the end goal. You got to know what you call success. And I think a lot of people, they think on the surface level of it just needs to be on the movie, it needs to be this. And then when they met with a ceiling, then everything explodes and they give up. But you make a great point. The success in the comic book world or the indie world is different, because I thought, just me thinking, I'm thinking the indies and the majors are really not going to do anything for you. But after hearing all that you said that these publishers can do for you on a base level, that sounds good, sounds enticing, So I think at this point, people have to figure out, like you said, once they get done with the book, where do they want to go from there? Because I don't think it's just one type of success, you know?
Yeah, no, that brings me to where I want to like end on sort of full circle. Remember, I originally started, we were talking about rappers and stuff, and I was saying the has-beens are actually at the same level as the indies.
Yeah.
The reason that happens, and it's now in comics, is we are all on the same playing field. And someone like me, I actually was able to like get a glimpse of what you might call the mainstream success. Like I had meetings with movie studios. I've talked to celebrities. I was sort of in the realm, and then with like music, like I talked to producers that are multimillionaires and things like that, and I was able to get a glimpse of like this life, and you realize that they are actually at the same level as you in a lot of different ways. And whenever I say has-beens, if you don't continue to maintain success to where you may have had a hit, but now, and if people want to learn more about kind of my whole philosophy and my whole step-by-step guide to all this stuff, I call it that on my website, hovencrow.com, or through my YouTube channel. Like there's a series of things that you do to make a living as an entertainer, whether you're a writer, artist, filmmaker, or musician. And even when you hit the big level and you get the record deal, like some of these rappers have, and what happens is you go on tour, and just like with comics, they may have been a hit with the record label, and I know their name because I listen to rap music, but they weren't a hit to where they weren't number one on the radio, so like they maybe made a lot of money, but only in the initial run. And then the publisher or the record label is like, you did well, but your next one is like, they might not get the next deal, and they sort of stall out. But because they made it so far from the get-go to their own audience base, or to the people that are into that record label or that style of rap or that person that year, like Jaquan, for example, is like people knew that hit song, and he still has an audience base of people that like that song or like local shows. So they still do shows, and he still makes a living, a very good living, by the way. It's not just like barely making it by. It's like still performing in colleges, performing real concerts, getting gigs on radios, and writing books, and they do all the things that you and I do, and they end up in the same circles as the rising talent because they become investors, and they aren't necessarily investing just money. They're investing relationships because they have the connections to the people that matter, but they don't have the talent necessarily anymore. But they know what the good talent looks like, and they know what the record labels. The same thing with us creators is,
wow,
we might know who the rising artist is, and me as a writer, I might go like, you have a style that's going to crush. Like if you and I work together, we can get a publisher, and I'm going to help that 19-year-old. And that's why you see so many rappers basically like rising these real young kids and partnering with them and becoming their like behind the scenes mentor. And why whenever you hear interviews, there's always like 10 guys in the background of their life, because those are the people that are basically literally funding their life because they're investing in this person because they have the connections but not the talent anymore. And sometimes they might have, like in my example, or with movies, is like you might have you might have the phone number to the streamer, you might have the meeting with Netflix, and you know what Netflix wants, but you don't have the talent to write Stranger Things. But you just found some guy that you're like, this guy has a script that's crushes, and he has a great short film. You might find other people to be like, this guy's gonna mean something. Let's help him make a short film or like a feature film, and then let's get him the meeting. And like they become sort of behind the scenes, and that's where we all end up in the same circles, because the indie people are also creating their own thing.
Yeah.
And the has-beens are also trying to find the new indie talent to then invest in that will turn into mainstream, because it's like we all sort of know what could work, but we don't all have the magic of what actually creates a breakout hit. And so it's like, as long as we can all sort of get by with the decent stuff and be like, I'm at least with I have my own little audience, it's paying for my next book, or I'm with this publisher and they're paying for the next book. Then in the meantime, in the background, you're investing in the next big thing. If you're not the one writing the huge pilot for a series or writing the thing, then you're helping someone else, and you're in like trying to partner with someone else that is making it, because they're going to be the next. They might be, you're investing your little bit that will turn into the million success, to where they get 1 million readers down the line. And it sometimes that's just how it works, because we're all a part of the same circle. Because in comics, we all go to Comic Cons. Not all of us, but like that's our touring. Like with bands, they tour and their opening acts or whatever. As comic creators, our touring is going to the Comic Cons.
Yeah.
And that's where we network, and that's where you find new artists, and that's where you sort of establish legitimacy in the professional circles and things like that. And then the rest is all online. And that's the other thing right now that's happening crazy, is that Hollywood itself and what the gatekeepers, or like the producers, are going to Kickstarter to find talent. They're not necessarily waiting for an agent to bring a script to their doorstep. They're going out and they're trying to find things on YouTube. That's why you're seeing so much success through TikTok and all this stuff, because that's a very easy metric to go, this person went viral here, they can probably go viral somewhere else. And everything is all about trying to take the next level of magnitude, or that exponentiality up, and riding that wave. So if they see somebody that sold 1,000 books on Kickstarter, they'll say, I can probably, as a publisher, sell 10,000 to my audience. And then somebody else will say, I'm a movie studio, and if they sold 10,000 through this people, I can probably sell 100,000 or whatever. And like, that's what everybody's doing. It's just this giant game of everybody's trying to ride the trends, and no one knows what's going to be the next big thing. But you may know that if something went from this point to this point, I can maybe take it to this point to this point. Wow. And like, just ride the trend. So they're always just trying to find the beginning of that little wave of what's the new trend. Yeah. And where do we find that out? We watch it on YouTube, like shows like this, and etc. I could talk forever, Dan.
No, man. Hey, we definitely got to do a part 2, because I'm just like, I'm soaking in all this information, man. We got to do a part 2. Tell the people where they can find you, Max, and where they can find your books.
I am on YouTube as Indie Comic Empire. Okay. I also have my own website called hovencrow.com. Hovencrow.com shows the movies I've produced, the books I've written, my whole company of the things I do. I also read comics and will edit comics and write comics for a price. I do a whole lot of things, so I don't have much time. So I do charge people for a lot of these services that I do. But I do that stuff. It's all at hovencrow.com, which is my last name. And then my writing partner, Aaron Crow, his last name. Together, we've written It Eats What Feeds It through Scout Comics. It came out in 2020. That was a graphic novel. We wrote Liquid Kill, which is published by Massive Publishing. It has 2 volumes. It's in a hiatus right now because with the Diamond bankruptcy, we didn't get any. We basically lost money in the long run on that, even though it was a hit. And we'll go in that in part 2 on the whole Liquid Kill saga, because that's a long story.
Yeah, part 2, I want to just focus on the books, on your books, and I want to focus on maybe crowdfunding.
Yeah, we can.
Crowdfunding game.
That brings to the last thing is I just crowdfunded a book called Our Love Unrest.
Okay.
And
I'm gonna have all this stuff popping up on screen while you talk.
Yeah, and you can find virtually all that stuff on my website. And if you need me to send you any images or anything like that, I can email it to you or whatever, or go through social media. So hovencrow.com is where you can find everything, or Indie Comic Empire here on YouTube.
What if somebody want to contact you on social media? Where can they find you?
Oh, I'm at Lord Max Hoven. So like at Lord Max Hoven, which is my name, and then Lord at the beginning. And I'm on Instagram. I'm on Twitter, and I'm on Facebook. All is that same at. That I'm whatever you're on that matters to you, I should be there. Except for I am on TikTok too, I think.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I have that all popped up. Max, thank you so much, brother. I'm definitely gonna do a part 2 because man, you like a ocean of information when it comes to films and comic books, and I love it. So I appreciate you, brother. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is another installation of Indie Comic Secrets. Yo.